Hey guys, this is Lee with Untapped Potential. We are here for part 5 of Chandra's campaign. Captain Beryl made us mad last time, and he's about to find out what happens when you cross a pyromancer. Even as your executioner looms over you, the grief over losing your parents and Beryl's stifling countermagic prevents you from fighting back, but one last spark of defiance still burns inside you, and it's begging to be freed. Our spark is about to ignite, but first things first, we've got something we have to do. So Captain Beryl, it's time to meet your fate. We'll be going first, and we have 2 mountains with which to use our spells, all of which cost 3, but the odds of us drawing our 3rd mountain are pretty good, I hope. Well, we draw our dash creature who did so much good for us last time in order to attack Captain Beryl. So if nothing else, even if he is on the counter magic plan, we've managed to stick one creature who we can sink all our mana into. I can think of worse things. I can also think of worse things than a mountain off the top of our deck right when we need it. He remands us, however, which puts the card back in our hand and lets him draw a card. So while it doesn't send the creature to our graveyard, and this being a phoenix, that's probably not a bug, it's a feature, it does, however, mean we wasted our mana this turn. Our opponent plays a 2/2 that lets him draw cards every time he damages us, and we find another mountain, so we just decide to go ahead and nip that in the bud with Chandra's Outrage, destroying it and dealing 2 damage to our opponent. We then attack for 1. We need to get in when we can since Captain Beryl's playing counter magic. If he chooses to use all his mana, we have to capitalize on it. He plays the 0/7 Wall of Frost, which will keep any creature that damages it tapped down for an extra turn. It doesn't deal with flying creatures like our next Phoenix though, so we do 2 more damage. We also, fittingly, have Chandra's Ignition in our hand, which would be a really sweet way to close out this battle. A second Wall of Ice, however, means that might take a while. Nevertheless, we're continuing to draw plenty of mana to use with our spells, and we go ahead and play Pyre Charger here, which also gets remanded back to our hand. Well, this time we have enough mana to just recast it, so okay, Captain Beryl, whatever you say. The Phoenix swoops in again for another 2 damage. Beryl is down to 11. And did I mention I want this guy dead? Because, no, seriously, guys, I want this guy dead. He killed my parents. We go ahead and make our dash creature a 7/1, meaning our opponent has to block it with one of his walls or take almost lethal damage. So that's 1 down, and even though our creature won't untap next turn, we can just use the other. The 2/2 that comes down, however, is going to put a bit of a wrench in our plans, but not too big of one. As Ravaging Blaze comes down, dealing the 2 damage to it necessary to get out of the way. Except our opponent plays Arcane Denials, countering our spell, but it will let us draw up to 2 additional cards next turn, which seems incredibly counterproductive to what our opponent's trying to do if you ask me. Even though our opponent doesn't have an artifact, we go ahead and play our creature here just to continue to develop our board, so we can go wide around all the walls and possibly trade against his 2/2. We choose to draw both the cards on offer here, and our opponent plays Dungeon Geist, which basically taps down one of our creatures, preventing it from untapping as a way to keep the Phoenix at bay. And then a Claustrophobia comes down on our other creature. Phooey. Alright, so the opponent attacks with the 2/2 here. We block because we don't want him drawing any cards, more potential counter magic to have to play around. And this turn, we have to figure out how to play smart. We go ahead and sink enough mana into our charger that when we use our Chandra's Ignition, we wipe the board. He also has to block with his wall, which has so much damage on it, we're able to crush it. So now the opponent's field is clear. And even though we won't untap next turn and another Wall of Frost comes down, he's in top deck mode and we still have threats, such as our 5/4 Elemental and another Vandal. So now we can just go wide around the wall next turn. And since we have all that mana to sink into our creature, he'd better have something good. We also draw a big old dragon here who I decide to go ahead and play on principle, who gets Arcane Denialed, meaning we'll draw 2 more cards next turn. But at this point, it does not matter, as we swing with the whole team and sink every last mana we have into the attack. Captain Beryl, it has been nice knowing you, but you are going down. That is what happens when you mess with a pyromancer. And at this point, my program had a bit of a glitch because apparently the connection to the server failed, which means I get to do this again sometime. That's not the end of the world. I do play this game because I enjoy it after all. So, whatever. Point is, we still get to see the cutscene. So let's go ahead and do that. So, despite everything we've done, we apparently did that whole battle tied up. And it's probably the best we don't get to see Captain Barrel's face, or I'd say unkind things. But anyway, it appears our anger is absolutely burning us up, and we decide to just go ahead and torch him. We wind up somewhere else entirely, with someone else who's every bit as adept at controlling the flames as we are. Ladies and gentlemen, it appears we have left our old life on that horrible plane of Kaladesh behind, and we have found ourselves a new home. Isn't that something? So Chandra, as we all know, becomes an adept pyromancer and a planeswalker who we've seen around before. And the threat of death at the hands of Captain Barrel causes your planeswalker spark to ignite. In a burst of flame, you leave Kaladesh behind. Your blazing arrival on the plain of Regatha attracts the attention of fire monks from the Carol Keep Monastery. They take you in, and it is there that your pyromantic training begins. And there you have it, everybody. That was the campaign of Chandra Nalaar. Next up, we're doing Nissa just in time for Battle for Zendikar. This has been Lee with Untapped Potential, and as always, thanks for watching.